Good morning, good morning, and good morning. Okay, y'all see me. I have on my, it's like an oversized, uh, it's like a lounger, but it's warm. I'm cold again this morning. I tell you, I am a New Yorker, but I'm done with the cold. I just don't like it. It can get 100 degrees and you'll never hear me complain. But this morning is terribly cold this morning, and it says it's like, well, my phone says it's 62. Doesn't feel like 62 of me. It feels like 42. But anyway, I'm a little chilly. But how are you doing this morning? How was your, let's see, today's Friday. How was your Wednesday and your Thursday? Today's Friday morning. How was your Wednesday and Thursday? I had a good time working a lot. Did a lot of things yesterday. So today I'm kind of after this I'm done because I always put in a lot of work on Thursdays because that's our Rotary Day, and there's always so much to do. So I've done all of that stuff for the week, and so I'm going to have a good time today, and I'm excited about today's word. I really I really am. Um, it's a word that I was listening to somebody recently, and they used it, and I said, "Wow, that's an interesting word. Do we really know it?" Um, sometimes we don't always know how to express ourselves, but there's a word for it. And I just think about, wow, do we put ourselves in a position of being an exaggerator, or one who oversells an idea, or and the idea is really larger than us? You know, um, we sometimes do, and so we end up being this hyper hyper idealist. We're above ourselves in terms of what it is that we're looking for and looking at. um they talk about hyper, the person who's the you know hyperbole. They're just the person at the high end of everything. Good morning, Rhoda. How are you doing? Haven't seen or heard from you in a while. Good to see you in the space. Thank you so much. But hyperbole is the word that really talks about, a person that may be boastful to the point where their stories don't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It has too much uh, air between what is reasonable and practical and what is actual. So when we talk about hyperbole, we're really talking about the idea of, it says it's an exaggerated statement or claims not meant to be taken literally. However, some people, and I think that's my question this morning, do you know people that speak in hyperbole? They're or hyperbolic. They're just in a position where they place themselves as being, you know, believable no matter what the story is. And so, a person that is really doing that says that they overstate what it is that they do, that there is a magnification to it, there's an amplification. Good morning, Maurice. How are you? Good morning. Good morning. Today, our word is hyperbole. Um, and so we talk about person that embellishes stories or overplaying their real stuff. They may be excessive and overkill, and they also say puffery. I like that word, puffery. So anyway, I found a poem, and many of us, regardless of who we are, probably have done some, you know hyperbole. We just have. Not meaning to, but probably as children, children always says, well, my dad can and my mom can, and those things as children, think they're thinking in largeness, because they think in well, my family's better than your family, and we have a bigger car, and we have this and that, and the reality may be totally different. So anyway, I found this poem by Langston Hughes, which would be considered to be a hyper a hyperbole, excuse me, poem, and it talks about dreams. And all of us dream. I don't care who we are. We dream to be bigger and badder than anything that we can imagine. We just do. And there's nothing wrong with that. So this one is by Langston Hughes. And so it says, hold fast to dreams. For if dreams die, life is broken winged bird, is a broken winged bird that cannot fly. Hold fast to dreams, for when dreams go, life is a barren field, frozen with snow. I love that poem, and I remember it as a young girl. Always, the teachers would say, "Well, we need you to have a dream, an idea of what you want to be, where you want to go." It doesn't say that you're going to get there, but it just says it takes you with some lift, some flight. That it may be all in the head, but there's a lot of people who started in their heads of a dream and an idea, and then it became their reality. I can imagine that there's so many people in the world who say they never imagined themselves to be able to go all the places they've been able to go, or be involved in all the things that they do, or make as much money as they've been able to make. So dreaming is still good. I don't think there's anything wrong with dreaming. We should all continue to dream, and I believe that we will always have a goal or a dream as long as we live. Hey, Debbie. Today our word is hyperbole. Hyperbole. And hyperbole is exaggerated statements or claims not meant to be taken literally. But sometimes we do. And sometimes the people that give the statements take them as being real. Okay, they take them as being real. So anyway, when we break the word down, I'm going to start with the H of hyperbole. And my H is heightened. It says, I can't even say that word. Hyperbole. 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 And it says, for my H, I used H can be hazardous. Yes, it can. Yes, it can. H can be hazardous, especially if you've committed to something or saying something and then you can't follow through on it. I think one of the things I wrote down as an example of hyperbole this morning was, I can run the 100-yard dash in 8.7 seconds. Well, I can't. But that is one of those statements that makes you say, she's lying. Or she's certainly dreaming in her head, because that is not true. And it isn't true. I mean, I think Usain Bolt did 9.58. And then I think there might be somebody else that did it a little bit faster than him, but by that time he was done with it. So you understand the significance of people wanting attention, wanting that possibility that somebody will remember them or think better of them or more of them. And so sometimes that's why they do it. Hogwash. That's a good H, hogwash. So I chose heightened, and I said heightened is to make something higher, boost it up, raise it, give it a lift. Elevate the idea that, you might be special. You might be really, really above everybody else that's doing this. And uprise and exacerbate, that's basically when you've taken a story and you've pushed it up so high and everybody there saying, wow, when we were kids, we listened to that. And I used to go home and tell my mother what so-and-so said. She said, you believe that? That's all she would say. She wouldn't say anything else. She just asked me did I believe it? Well, we're kids, so sure we did. We wanted to, and then we came up with our own stories that would certainly be, hyperbole. We weren't telling the truth. We were making up something that we wanted to make ourselves feel like we were more important or bigger than we really were or are. When I move down my word of hyperbole, I look at my why, and my why is for yearn. Yearn. I believe that most people, when they've made a statement or a statement that would be considered hyperbole, there's a yearn there for them to be believed, for them to be trusted, for them to be, recognized as being important. Um, so I have yearned for my why. Oh, hype is good too. Oh, both Ardelia. Good morning, Ardelia. Good morning. You and Deb both had the same. Well, no, you had Ardelia had hype, um, and hogwash. Okay, I see it. It was flipping through the my screen. Yawn. Yawn. Yes, because boring. Okay, you so funny. I have yearn for my why, and yearn has an intense feeling of longing for something, typically something that one has lost or been separated from. And a lot of times when we have probably used a statement that would be considered, a hyperbole statement, we're really looking at how important I am. Listen to me. I have something to say, and I need you to pay attention to who I am. So that means there's a longing. There's a pine. There may be a craving for them to be above or covet. They've made a covet unto themselves that I, excuse me, I will always be considered to be the knowledgeable one of all of us. There's an itch, a dream. There's that word again, dream, which is the poem by Langston Hughes. And then a fancy. So it's real simple to me. It could be a yawn, it could be a yearning. How about it could be you? Just the word, you. Because sometimes the yous of us, that which is all of us are our own identity, we might come up with something that is far-fetched, and we think we believe it, but we're trying to get you to believe it. And sometimes we do. We say, wow, like all the people that are on like a lot of the what do they call, I guess they call them, like, I'm trying to think what they call those things. They're almost where they play them out, where the family is being followed around with the cameras and everything. It's almost like real life stuff. A lot of times when you get down to the real deal of what's going on in those families, something's not right. Excuse me. I don't know if son got a tickle. So they yearn to be important. They want to be up there with those who know stuff and who can be believed. And there's many of us who follow people that we shouldn't believe. My peeve today in my hyperbole is puffy. It's puffery, excuse me, puffery, Puffery. And that's just exaggerated and false praise. And that's many, many a story we probably heard said that doesn't sound right. And I don't know if any of you've seen, Cat Williams, which kind of broke the internet, over a week and a half, almost 2 weeks ago now. He broke the internet, and he talked about every one of the comedians he thought that were living a lie. I'll just be honest. He thought they were living a lie in terms of what they were telling the public and what was really going on in terms of Hollywood and all of that kind of stuff. So, of course, in the description, when they led up to his interview, one of the things, and he's like a person who works with personalities and stuff, and who's a psychologist, and he said it's all hyperbole. It is what it is. But he's believable because even though he may use the extended form of it, when you get down to the real words or the real meaning, he was on point. So you never know. But puffery, talks about it being exaggerated or false. It may be compliments. It may be, adulation or applause, approbation or blandishment. So when we look at some of the stories that people have told us, pretend. I love that. That is good. Pretend. Now, that's insightful. That's an insightful word because it fits so well in hyperbole. It does. Because when you think about it, the story is made up. It's there's some truth in it sometimes, but the truth gets distorted over maybe the many times that they've told it or all the other things that they've added on to it. So pretend is really a great word. We move on in our word of hyperbole. We talk about exaggerated. And exaggeration, basically, it's also false. It's an overstatement. Enhancement. That's good. That was good too. Debbie, you're just on it this morning. Oh, polished. Angela. Hey, Angela. How's Jacksonville? You're right. You're so right. Polished is good. Enhancement is great. You just think about that. Expanded. Yes. All of those. All of those. So exaggerated talks about it being overstated, overemphasized, overestimated. And sometimes our perception isn't off. Let's face it. We're not always precise as we should be. Sometimes we intentionally need to expand in order to make the story flow nicely. Like I love storytellers. I'm not going to lie. I love a good storyteller. And I can hear the story again and remember the last time they told it, because sometimes they're looking for laughs or they're looking for, reassurance that people believe them or something. They're in it. They're in it for that. Exaggerated also means to magnify, overvalue, amplify, inflate, and embellish. So all these words are so related: expanded, enhancement, magnify, inflate. All of those words are meant to go above what may be normal. Let's face it, sometimes we are normal and then we end up with the story, and the story, there you go. One of the things it talks about is if you've ever been a person that writes for a living, or you're an editor, the stories that sell. And I have a friend that's a both a writer and a publisher, and one of the things, and editor, and one of the things she says is that things that are sensationalistic sell. Okay. Explode. Oh yeah, that's good too, Debbie. That's good. Things that make sense, okay, may not sell as well as the thing that they added that really didn't make sense, but gave it some texture, gave it some, some boldness. Those kind of things they make sense to somebody who says, wow, did you hear this? It sells. The books that become most extraordinary in terms of their content are selling. They sell well. So when we move on in our word of a hyperbole, we talk about our R, and our R is rhetorical. A lot of times the person that may be the one that catches all of the attention in the room is the one who can use rhetoric well. And, rhetoric is expressed in terms of it intended to persuade or impress, so, you can go on television, and you can go to your television and watch some of the interviews with people, and the ones that really get the attention are the ones that can come up with catchy phrases, or it might be something that's either so dark or so scary or so impressive, we stay right with them. We continue, and that's how they end up getting a following even after that, a rant. Okay, that's good too, Debbie. That's good. Rant is good. When you sometimes think of all kinds of things that go on with people, a rant is something that they may stay on it for a while, but eventually you either believe it or you hope they would shut up. But I get that. So the rant, the rhetorical talks about it being expressed in terms of intended or persuaded or impressive behavior. It says it may be the grand eloquent or the grandiose or the magniloquent, high flown, high sounding, lofty person. You know, we know them. Let's face it. We've seen them a lot of times. You know, though politicians are that. You know, they're able to have persuasive speeches by not only what they say but how they say it. Many of us have probably been exposed to them, and that's how we end up voting for them, or we support their campaign or whatever it is. But it's basically done like that. You know, we just watch them and we say, wow, they had something to say. And then you ask them, well, what they say? I'm not quite sure, but it sounded good. So we get persuaded easily by what we hear. And sometimes those lofty conversations always will prick our heart and basically, sway us in terms of what we think. When we move on in our word of hyperbole, we talk about the B being it's bedeck, bedeck. That's just to decorate. And when someone is good at decorating, they make it attractive. And so if you have somebody that is good at their speaking and placing you where you're almost right there in the middle of not just their conversation, but they've almost transformed or transferred you to where the event took place, you're with it, saying, what happened next? So bedecked is the decorator. They're going to be the ones that will adorn the stories with ornamental kind of things, where they trim off what they don't want and it says prettify the things that they do want you to know and know of. It says there's an enrichment and an enhancement to how they work, and they say they basically trick it out. Let's just say. Mm-hmm. Bodacious, yes. I couldn't read it at first. I don't know. My screen ended up pulling over. Big talk. Baloney. You guys are on it this morning, but bodacious is good. Because that means it's going to be put on. It's almost like the Ritz, putting on the Ritz. Everything has got to be just right. Highfalutin. Everybody knows about it. It's very important. It's the event or the situation that everyone needs to know. My O, when I move on in our word of hyperbole, I talk about overstatement. Now, when you've heard an overstated comment. Well, some people do. But the overstatement comment it says the action of expressing or stating something too strongly. It's an exaggeration. Overkill. There you go. I love it. And that's exactly that word came up too, overkill. It says meaning that it has been exaggerated, that there's an overemphasis on what they want you to know. It's an embellishment. It's a magnification. It's excessiveness, and it's enhancement. There's that word again that somebody wrote earlier. It's enhancement. All of those words are very relative of how we may be in the presence of somebody who is a person that speaks well into hyperbole. They're just able to do it. It's an easy thing for them. Some people don't have to practice. They're very good at telling their stories or their tales in such a way that there's attraction. My L, when I move on in our word, is lofty. I like that word. I always have. and I've always used it. And it says of imposing height. That means it's laying it on laying it on thick. Yes, yes, Debbie, laying it on thick. That's really good. Um, Lofty really talks of imposing height. Basically, you're going to push it up as high as it will go and hope everybody will see it and recognize it as being yours and being special. That is it. Lucrative, yeah, because sometimes people will find that there's lucrativeness in telling a story that everybody comes to know them for, and they keep coming back. Lies. Yes, lies is good. In fact, I was going to put down lies, but I thought lies was a little too simple. So yes, Debbie, lies is it. Lies is basic. But I think some people who tell their stories, after a while, they believe them. So is it a lie anymore? And maybe a lie when they originally started. After a while, they believe their own lies. So it becomes their truth. Just plain and simple. But to be lofty really talks about making it a tall story and a high presentation, giant in terms of its oversight, towering over anything that might be available or compete with it. It says soaring above all the other people who may be talking, almost like a skyscraper, and making it where it's very imposing on anybody else that may speak after them. And it says it is definitely the sky, and it definitely is extremely high. It's going to be above what the normal person might look at for the story. you know I remember as a child, and even a young girl, even when we were in school, if someone told a story that was, to me, almost like unbelievable or magical or whatever, I was like, wow. Then, when it came time for me to tell a story, I couldn't tell a story as good as that. So I became shy and I didn't want to have a story. So sometimes that's what happens. We listen to other people and we never get our stories out, only because their story was just, so attractive. It was an attraction. My E, it says, oops, long-windedness. That's really good too. That's good too. I know what you meant. The E I have for hyperbole, which is the last letter in the word, is embellishment. Plain and simple, that is what hyperbole is: a decorative detail or feature added to something to make it more attractive. That's probably one of the best words that describes what hyperbole is. And it says that when you break it down, extension, that's right, it is an extension. It's the extension onto what it is that they're saying versus what it is that's actual. But embellishment talks about it being decoration, ornamentation, beautification, expanded. Yes, expanded is good. Extension of the truth. Yes. Yes, sometimes it is an extension of the truth, meaning the truth is in there someplace. It's in there, but they realize that. I had a friend. He could always tell a good story, but what made his story so good is that when he went above where the truth was, that's when he really became not only comedic, but he had a following of people say, hey, what story you got to tell us today? It worked. Exaggerated. So it worked. And yes, Angela, exaggerated is good. Extension of the truth is good. Embellishment talks about it also being a garnishing. When we think of garnish, we think of adding on something to make it more attractive. And so if we are the person who's presenting the words or presenting the story, and we want to make it more attractive, we're going to make it where it is, our way of getting out ahead of the crowd that's listening to us. and we make it where they want to hear the rest of the story. And so it also talks about it is an enhancement, and somebody wrote that down. Enhancement. It says it's a gilding, and gilding is when something has been added where it's gold, where the gold, almost like the glitter and the, those things makes it even more attractive, you know. And it says a varnishing, and varnishing, obviously, varnish is to add a layer of what I call shine on something, making where it can be preserved, that it's going to be sustained in your memory. It says an embroidery, in these letters, these words under embellishment really talks about how you're taking what was originally the truth and maybe something more plain. And once you add all of these other things to it, the bedecking, the embroidery, the gilding, the varnish, all those kind of things, it becomes something else, bigger and more visible and more memorable, you know. And so when we think of people that have probably said things that would be considered to be hyperbole, we would end up being surprised at what we believe of it. We say, "Oh, he just gave it high praise," but guess what? They say things like that to make it that you would remember it, that you would come back, that you would have a conversation. But anyway, I want you to pay attention to the stories that you're listening to, or maybe even your own stories. And let's face it, every once in a while, probably a little exaggeration will help everybody just laugh a little bit. Certainly not, don't give them the story about being able to run the 100-yard dash and, 8.59 seconds. It certainly wouldn't be me, but that would certainly be something that would be considered, hyperbole. But listen, y'all have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. What's the plans? Anybody have any plans? You're going to be staying home? Is it still cold where you're at? I know now you're in South Florida, Debbie, and Angie, she's on the same length that I am. She's just on the other side of the state, but I don't know in terms of the coast over there if it's gotten really cold. But it's been freezing here, and it's supposed to go back down at night, tonight and tomorrow night. So, not my favorite areas. Once the cold comes, I'm done with it. But listen, you all have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Do something special for yourself and others if you want to. And if you can, you don't have to do anything special for me, but if you can hit the share button, that would certainly be wonderful. And I'll be back on Monday. No more holidays this month. So I'm looking forward to kind of chilling the weekend a little bit, doing something for me. Okay. I love you. I love you. I love you. Appreciate you. And I will see you soon. Take care of yourselves. Be safe out there. All right. Love you guys. Thanks. Bye-bye.